Originally endorsed Jeb Bush early in the primary season, later Senator Marco Rubio. He's been publicly skeptical of Donald Trump, and though he has not revealed who he ended up voting for, Congressman says he didn't vote for Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton. He joins us now live. Congressman, thanks for your time today.
Hey, thanks. Good to be with you.
All right. So, the Trump camp has said they kept a list of enemies or those who did not support him. Moving forward, do you think, you're in the same party. The GOP now holds the Senate, the White House, and the House. Do you think you can work together?
Oh, I absolutely think so. I heard the victory speech by Donald Trump, which was very humble, very much talking about unity. I think the realization as you move from a campaign moment to a presidential moment, and I literally think the weight of the world probably came on his shoulders, and he realized all of a sudden, I'm going to be president, and there's billions of people looking at my leadership, and there's 350 million Americans that are looking at my leadership, and so I think we're going to unite as a party. I think we've been uniting as a party very, very quickly, and I'm excited to work with President-elect Trump and President Trump to get our Republican agenda done.
All right, let's talk about some potential issues. Obviously, Obamacare is one that is being discussed now. There have been many GOP proposals that strip parts, keep parts. Some people want a complete overhaul. President-elect Trump now saying that there are portions he would keep. How do you tackle this beast?
Well, ultimately, I think it's going to be the leadership of President Trump in terms of how this ends up looking. If he says, here's a couple provisions we want to keep, obviously he's the quarterback in this, so he's gonna take the lead. This at least has to be massively fixed or completely overhauled. But, at the end of the day, we're going to get this fixed in a way that makes sense for the American people. I don't think nobody's ever talked about throwing tens of millions of people off of insurance that have it now. Nobody's talked about getting rid of the idea that people can stay on their parents' plans until they're 26. So I think those kinds of things will be preserved. But there's no doubt that, look, every election cycle since Obamacare passed, this was a huge issue, and the American people had spoken out loudly that they don't like this. This is incumbent on us now to go to Washington, D.C., to repeal and replace this plan with something that works, as well as, many other priorities we have, which we're excited to do.
What do you make of the conversation that people who talk about Mr. Trump and say, listen, he's a deal maker, he's going to be somebody who will compromise, who will sit down with folks like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, that he'll be willing to work across the aisle because he's about the very pragmatic way of just getting things done. Do you think that'll fly here in Washington, and do you think that would be a strategy? Will it work?
It could be a strategy, and I think that's not a terrible strategy on some things. So, initially there are Republican priorities we have to get done. Look, you're not going to have any Democrats probably join on the issue of repealing Obamacare. So we're going to have to do that as Republicans. But when you get to issues like tax reform and you get to infrastructure and you talk about lifting sequester on our military and some of those big priorities, it would behoove us to bring Democrats, if possible, in with us on this journey. Because if you think about every time there's been one-party control and they have not reached out to the other side of the aisle, they get shellacked 2 years later. Republicans in 2004 got beat in 2006, and President Obama in 2008 got crushed in 2010. So while we have these big Republican priorities that are important, I think going forward, it helps us to try to reach out. And if Democrats don't want to work with us, that's their choice. But I think at least being open to saying, how can we work together as a country and unite?
Has it sunk into you yet what happened on Tuesday night, the fact that Mr. Trump defied all odds, the GOP held on to the Senate, the fact that you have all the branches that we mentioned, obviously the judiciary is independent and nonpartisan, did you ever think you'd be working from this position come January 2017?
I was hoping, I'm glad, but I don't think anybody, I think even a lot of people in the Trump campaign did not see this kind of wave coming. You look at Pennsylvania, Illinois, by the way, is a blue state surrounded in a sea of red, and I wish we'd become red. But it was really dynamic. You see people in kind of rural America, which my district's very rural, that said, we feel left out of Washington. We feel like they're not listening. We need somebody that's going to go and shake up the way business is done. And it behooves all of us that have been in D.C. for, any longer than 2 months to listen to the voice that supported Donald Trump and understand that these people aren't necessarily saying they're Republicans. We have to bring them into the party, too, and make them long-term Republicans. I think we can do that.
Yeah, we saw all kinds of exit polling that showed this was an electorate like none other. Congressman, we will watch and see as the new administration kicks off just about 2 months from now. Thank you, sir, for your time.